Hey everybody, it's Rob here. Season 5 in Diablo 4 is starting this Tuesday, and we have been cooking up the best build for each class and ranking them in a tier list. A lot of builds are stronger than ever, and we sure have a lot of power creep this season with many awesome buffs to underused builds. The characters are also looking amazing with some fresh transmogs coming here, and we have a full spreadsheet just like in usual fashion here. Keep in mind that we have build links, planner links here, and we also have gameplay of PTR/live clears on at least most of the builds. Some of them are completely new and we don't have them, but we're gonna go over like all these builds here. We haven't played the final patch yet, so this is my best guess. There might still be some bugs or some new interactions that come to light here. And I will do my best to keep updating this tier list as the season progresses here. So this tier list long term will change, but we did a lot of theory crafting. I spoke to a lot of people, and this is our best guess here for the strongest builds of D4. Let's go. Before we get going with the tier list and the awesome new builds, I want to tell you about my partner, Holy. As many of you have seen during my streams, we still have the Holy Bolt Elixir from Season 4, now also in real life. Holy is amazing with tons of drink flavors ranging from iced tea, hydration, and energy drinks. And these will get us going through long blasting sessions. For Season 5, we plan to do a 30-hour live stream on Twitch, but also here on YouTube. And Holy is gonna help a ton staying focused and awake while still being super tasty. You can use my code ROB or the link in the description for 10% off your order. And this one will go on top of a discount that is currently going on here also for the Olympics. There are these starter packs available with the best selling flavors of the top 7, and you get 2 samples per variety, plus one of these shakers here to get you started. So check it out and cheers. So we have down here in basically please don't play. Unfortunately, we have the Iron Maelstrom barb. This is like a new barb that got a unique, but it's still not strong enough. Same for like some pure builds here, Call of the Ancients. Lunging Strike, Frenzy barb, unfortunately not viable. Charge barb the same. Leapquake also has received a heavy nerf. So we are kind of starting here with the B tier. We have Hoda Barb, got a new aspect buff, double damage against the bosses now. Gonna be a solid build, but the Barbarian in general is suffering from a lot of key passive changes. We have the Rend buff. There's been Creeping Death that has been buffed by quite a bit. That has a lot of potential. Then we have Deathblow that got a new weapon, but this is all just not enough. And it keeps going like this. Thorns has been nerfed. Upheaval, there's been a little bit of a shift here. We have a new Hellhammer that does a lot of damage now, but also I think not enough. In general, basic builds with the Shard of Viranthiel still are looking extremely strong. And I'm not going to go over every build here. You can kind of see what is on the B tier here. I want to start you off with some interesting builds here in A tier. And one build in particular here for the Necro that I've not seen many people talk about. And this is just how it looks here. This is a Generator Necro. So look at this. Shout out to Para Gaming for this one. So you see, this is the build that's blasting Duriel. And this is a basic skill Necromancer with Bone Spirit. So that is pretty fun. This is what the build looks like. So it basically revolves around the splintering aspect here. Shattered Spirit. It releases the Bone Splinters with Shard of Viranthiel. This is the big item that makes a basic build so strong this season. And you can basically proc this with Bone Spirit at a 6x multiplier here. Enjoy all the other like basic buffs. This is a pretty strong build that I've not seen many people talk about. And I think it's very cool. We have Twisting Blades with Endariel making a big comeback. Bloodlands is buffed like crazy. So in this A tier, we will easily see these builds do 135, and if the boss HP is really nerfed, they're gonna be even doing probably 10 tiers higher than this. We haven't like fully focused only on the pit clearing. This is also a lot of speed run potential. We will focus on that when we talk about the Whirlwind Barb later, which is in a higher tier than A tier. right now. We have the minion necro here. This one has been nerfed a little bit with the blight aspect. It's still a pretty decent build, I think, that's gonna be strong, but overall necro seems to have run out of favor a little bit. Same for the bone spear here, still a solid build. It used to be one of the best builds in Season 0, but it's still pretty decent. Just not strong to make it into S tier. We have the wolf companion druid, so there are some pretty high clears here. This was on the basic server here. This one is from Greg. It's basically just wolves, and they have buffed this a lot by buffing more and more legendaries. And basically just the wolves dealing the damage here. Like, you're throwing the wolves, and it's basically like just blasting the enemies here whenever you're doing the wolf companion. And this build has seen quite some cool buffs, and I think is a very underrated build as well. Obviously this gameplay here is with holy bolts, but this is before all the buffs. This is getting about another double, potentially even a bit more damage. Wolf Companion Druid is looking very good. Same for Boulder. The Boulder has finally been fully bug fixed, as well as its damage has been buffed. So Boulder Druid also very solid choice. Not the best build here, but still pretty decent. Wind Shear, same thing. We are getting Creeping Death, Shadow of Iranthiel. This was one of the top builds in the current Season 4. Wind Shear Generator Druid. Now being a little bit stronger. Then here we have the Whirlwind Barb in A tier. So I think this one is still speed king in the entire game. Spin to win is still strong. You are obviously losing some damage from gushing wounds. They finally fixed the Twister Glyph, which makes up for a little bit at least. And I think this build is just going to be tremendous. We also have this anger management aspect. If you're looking here at the planner, we're going to have Perma Berserking. It's going to be a strong leveling build as well, the Whirlwind Barb. And just in general, one of the best farmers in the game. And even for high pit pushing, it's probably going to struggle against single target. But it's still going to be very, very solid build for these pushing. It's only going to be outshined by generator builds on the Barb that we will talk about in a little bit. Then we have Ball Lightning, Endariel, Frozen Orb, Blizzard, and Fireball Sork. So Blizzard, Frozen Orb, they all got roughly a double damage increase next to Ball Lightning as well. And these builds are all looking to be very, very solid, just casually doubling the damage on all of them. And they're all doing around 130 on the live server and basically going up to all the way to almost 140, I think, on all of them. And they are all very similar. And then the next build here, the Fireball, this one has been buffed even more for the Sorks. And you can see here that we got a new unique as a staff and a new unique as gloves. And these two alone might even be enough to put the build into S tier. I have it here in A tier. I don't quite believe it's gonna go all the way to S tier, but it's definitely the strongest contender in A tier, and there's a good chance, if it can solve single target issue, that it's also moving to S tier. But again, very solid build choice for all of these. If you are playing a sorcerer, you have a lot of options in general. The sorcerer class, we're gonna get to all the lightning builds in a bit here as well. In general, the sorcerer class is eating good with all the lightning buffs and all the generic buffs to base multipliers, to mastery skills, to core skills. Very, very strong class. I think one of the top classes to start the season with. Yeah, Chain Lightning Sorcerer, we're gonna get to that. And then we are getting here into the top tiers. So I want to start here in S tier. We have Heartseeker Rogue and we have a Penetrating Shot. And these two were top builds last season, but the Victimize key passive is now getting a fix. So Victimize is this passive that used to double dip, basically like affecting your damage multipliers and resulting in some crazy damage. But to make up for it, Victimize has been increased by 50%. So it's still going to be solid. It remains to be seen how strong these really are. I think Penshot was like, I mean, it did like 160 pit on the live game. So still pretty strong, same for Victimize, and we will see where these will land, but I could see Victimize dropping down into A tier here. But this really depends on how Victimize will finally work now. Same for the Penshot, but Penshot in general is a bit stronger here. Then we have one of the coolest builds, in my opinion. It's the AK-47 Landslide Druid. And in general, guys, the Landslide Druid and the Bear builds are super strong this season. This is top build here for the Druid. and top build overall. It has been doing 133 here on the live server. I've done this on the PTR, like watch this here on the PTR that I've been doing. So we have just been like melting Lilith on this build, and Druids are definitely eating good. Don't let the Season 5 artwork deteriorate you or mislead you. Like the Druid is still pretty insane, and you guys can see me here just melting through some of the bosses, and this build does it with ease, hitting for hundreds of millions of damage on every tick that we're doing with these landslides, and this received a massive buff, 133 clear on the live, and I think this has potential to go all the way up to 150 here. So in general, this is a very, very strong Druid build, and yeah, don't let this artwork here where the Druid is like kind of struggling a little bit distract you. I think Druids are eating, pun intended, good this season. And then we have our duo builds here on the Barbarian. We have Flay Barb and Direct Bash Barb. Unfortunately, I don't see any builds competing with this. There is the new Deathblow build, the new Upheaval build, but I think they are all not strong enough to beat Flay Barb. Like, maybe you've seen it here, but like my Flay Barb has been hitting for 400, yeah, you see here 400 billion damage. And even though we are losing about a 50x multiplier with the Gushing Wounds, we are getting then Shard of Iranthiel and we're getting like some other buffs. We are still hitting in the multiple like double-digit billion range here with our Rupture and Flay. And even with the Gushing Wound nerf, this is or remains probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, boss killer out there. Because yeah, we are basically just using this up with Shard of Iranthiel. And similar situation with the Bash Barb, even though we are losing, the Bash Temper goes down divided by 5, we are still benefiting from Shard of Iranthiel and the combination that we can do here when we are playing with Uber Uniques with Starless Sky. So we're getting triple damage from Iranthiel and we're getting a 1.5x from Starless Sky here. And then obviously all the Mythic Uniques have been reworked, so that's going to be even stronger. And I think Bash Barb overall is going to be the best build for like you know, more casual players. I don't recommend leveling with it because you need the Bash Temper to make the build work. So probably start with something like Upheaval or Whirlwind and then transition into the Bash Barb for all around playing. Again, I have planners and everything here ready, and I think the build is going to be tremendously strong. Next here we have some new builds. We have the Lightning Spear. So I have some video footage here from Lurkin. Unfortunately, I didn't play this myself, but this is basically the Lightning Sword, because we have the Splintering aspect. This one here, Splintering Energy, has been reworked to now deal quite some damage. And I think with all these new changes, this is going to be one of the top builds. So again, this didn't have all the buffs and this had multiple bugs. But you guys can see here how fast it's melting Lilith already. And this was like scuffed gear, not all the buffs. And there is big potential here for this build here with the Splintering. I think it's going to be one of the best. Let's see phase 2 here for a second. So you guys can see here Lilith spawning, and then it's just like all these lightning spears just like hitting her. And she just goes down. So this is gonna be very, very strong build here for the Sorc. And in general, the Lightning Sorc build, so there's also Chain Lightning, which we're gonna talk about next, are gonna be cooking like insane here. So next one here is Chain Lightning. This had quite some funny bugs on the PTR. Obviously, like doing a couple of quadrillions of damage. This is not gonna happen anymore. They actually fixed this. I just want to show this to you real quick. So this is what it used to do. To a Pit 200 boss. Just melting here, like in Pit 200. This is not gonna happen anymore. This has been fixed, but it used to do like 4 quadrillion damage. But it's still gonna be very strong because there are several bug fixes as well as some buffs to the Axial Conduit here. And I've been talking and checking with a lot of Sorc players. And there is a lot of hope here for Chain Lightning Sorcerer. So probably these two Lightning builds are going to be the top Sorc build, and then there is one constant that obviously is not missing because we got the Shard of Iranthiel, and this is the old Fireball Sorcerer. The Shatter passive has been gutted now, so we are not playing Shatter no more, but you are now playing Combustion, and Firebolt in general has received a massive buff with the Shard of Iranthiel as well. And Unless there is some crazy interaction, I think the Firebolt Generator Sorg is still gonna be the strongest or one of the strongest Sorg builds here next to the Lightning builds. And there, again, there's potential for Fireball on Sorg, but it's gonna be a tough race, I think, against Firebolt. So very, very strong. I have like 120 clear here only, which was like with the old pit system. So this is like easy plus 10 tiers just from the pit nerfs. And then it's like at least double damage. So this is going to be rocking like 140, maybe even 150 if the boss HP is really being changing that much. And yeah, now coming into S plus tier here, we have 2 builds. And the first one here, I want to show you some footage here as well, is from the Bone Spirit Necro. This has already been a top build in the current season, clearing all the way up to 144 in the pits solo. And this is before all the buffs. This is getting a new unique boots. It's getting like multiple buffs here with the Paragons and the pants. So you guys can see here, this guy is already hitting every hit. He's hitting the boss for 1 to 2 billion damage every time he just does his Bone Spirit. And he's also regaining, you see here, 1.7. It just like blasts us down. And I've also have some footage here from some of the Uber bosses with this build on the PTR. And for some reason, they keep buffing this strongest Necromancer build further and further. And this one is sure one of the big winners, absolutely one-shotting every Uber boss that exists in the game. You guys can see here, like this has been farmed a lot, and you just like shoot one spirit. Because they don't have 2 billion lives, so they just like die in one shot. But here Zir says, boom, sayonara, gone. So yeah, these builds are extremely strong, and it's getting another buff from some of this footage that you've seen here with the Path of Tragul here, basically increasing essence even further. And the Blood Moon Breaches here has been buffed from a 1.7 to a 2.5x. So I'm thinking this is gonna get like about 10 tiers. And again, it already did 144. You can see the clear again in the description. And yeah, this is gonna do 150 plus for sure. And then the last 2 builds here that are even stronger than this, I think, is the Andariel Rogue. So as you guys know, Andariel Rogue was already very strong right now. And Andariel's has been reworked and now functions together with the new Fist of Fate, basically resulting in almost 100% lucky hit. I think the base on Fist of Fate is 50 something, and if you get a greater affix and you masterwork it, you're gonna have like 120% lucky hit chance. And as you know, Andariel works with lucky hits. And if you have more than 100%, this chance to trigger it actually goes up as well. So there has been some crazy synergy. We also got buffs to the Creeping Death, as well as a new aspect here that is called Noxious Eyes. So yeah, rogues are eating good. There is a lot of combinations you can play this Andariel with. You can play it with Flurry, you can play it with Barrage, you can play it with Puncture. But yeah, Andariel S tier plus in my opinion. And then last but not least here is the Rapid Fire Rogue. This one was already extremely strong. And we now have the Umbocrux. This is like a new dagger. So you guys can see here, this is like the gameplay. This is doing 143. It also got a lot more buffs in comparison to this. Basically like just blasting down all these arrows. And you see like he just keeps shooting this. The new ring makes this possible. And there is this new dagger that spawns totems here. This was completely cooked, completely broken on the PTR. I think they will have nerfed the interaction here, and they also nerfed it from 30 to 20% effectiveness and from 2 to 1. But I still think the Umbocrux here is an insane dagger with the way the rogue mechanics work. And yeah, this build is gonna be reigning supreme once again. Rapid Fire Rogue. Again, the planners are all here. And this is pretty much the entire tier list. I'm a little sad on some of the Barb things that we are still playing quote-unquote the old meta with Bash, Flay, and Bleed. I would have loved to see more buffs or more significant buffs to Hoda, to Upheaval. I'm still very happy that we've gotten them. But also like to Thorns and the nerf of the Leap Glyph. Not really that nice. I don't think these generator core builds will... Sorry, the core builds I don't think will compete with the generator builds at all. Even in this season. So we'll see what's going to happen here. Again, I will keep updating this tier list. And at the end here, I want to go over my overall power ranking one more time. So I think, and again, I'm going to probably make a top 10 builds, but I think overall the Necromancer has this strongest build with Bone Spirit. But I think overall Necromancer is struggling quite a bit from the Shadow Blight nerf. And they also didn't really get this like Great Feast aspect has been like nerfed from the patch notes again. And again, there's only really one build on Necromancer. All the other builds are kind of in the shitter. I kind of wished that they didn't nerf minions all too much, but they did. So we only really have Bone Spirit to look forward to. And I think this is also why I made a poll here. I'm going to put this below. You can vote here as well. I have a poll here which class you're starting the season, and the Necromancer only is pulling in at 8%. I know my community is a bit biased towards Barb, but man, Necromancer was 8%. If I'm comparing this to previous season, where I think we made a similar poll, and here the Necromancer was at 43%. So how the mighties have fallen. Necromancer Season 4, 43%. Necromancer Season 5, 8%, at least in my community. So that's why Necromancer is getting rank 5 for me. Then coming in number 4, we have the Druid. Again, the Landslide Druid is amazing. We've also seen some buffs to some interesting builds with Boulder. Wind Shear is kind of still strong with the Shard of Veranthiel. But I'm still kind of missing like a lot of the new builds here shining really on the Druid. But still, solid pick with Landslide. If you want the AK-47 true American build, I recommend you playing Druid Landslide. Coming in at number 3, I have the Barbarian with Heavy Heart. Again, we have old meta kind of. We still have Whirlwind, we still have Flay, we still have Bash. They tried to make something work with Course, with Upheaval, with Hoda. But like I mentioned before, I don't think it's quite enough to make these builds really viable. And they've also giga nerfed all the key passive on the Barbs. And not really so crazy. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention on Druid. Pulverize is decent. It's probably the best leveling build for Druid. But in endgame, I also noticed that the patch notes were not really accurate. So Pulverize, it says here it got buffed from 50 to 92. But Pulverize in-game right now is already at 88%. So I'm not sure what happened there, but Pulverize is not buffed as much as it says in these patch notes. So that's why I have Pulverize not as high. Pulverize was unfortunately here in B tier. But yeah, coming in number 2 then, and the Sorcerer players finally rejoicing. Sorcerer has been, apart from one bugged Shatter build, in the shit tier for far too long. And I think Season 5 is finally the season of the Sorcerer. And this one is also represented here in the poll here, where a lot of people, again, this Barb is very biased, so a lot of people are going to start Sorcerer. I think, in fact, if you make a non-biased poll, overall Diablo 4 player base, I think Sorcerer is gonna be the most played and most hyped class of the next patch. They simply have so many cool new builds, man. They received buff to all the core skills. They've received buff to all the mastery skills. They have completely new builds with Fireball, completely new builds with Lightning Spear, completely new builds with Chain Lightning, basically. And who knows what else the Sorcerer community is going to come up with. Sorcerer is definitely eating good. Coming in at number 1 in terms of power level, I think it's going to be the Rogue. Very well balanced class, but also a class that usually has a tremendous amount of bugs. We're just looking into, you know, some of the penshot stuff, some of the drunken rogue stuff. We're looking at victimized double dipping. We're looking at poison double penta dipping. And it's basically just been a class, or at the new dagger here, the Ambrax doing some crazy stuff here. So we've been looking at a class that has been plagued with bugs. To make it crazy, I made this meme +2 exploit, but the rogue only. So we had a lot of exploits, a lot of bugs on the rogue. And right now, it looks like, I'm cautiously optimistic here, that it's not gonna be bugged. It's just the Endaria rogue and the Umber crooks just being so strong. Hopefully there's not gonna be any bugs, but we will see. This is, again, the biggest shift that might happen in the tier list is some crazy broken mechanic will make it into the live game, because we have not tested all these final patch notes. They have like changed the final patch notes, and we don't really know exactly how some of these very vague patch notes are gonna work out. I think there's a lot of stuff on the lightning where you have no idea like what exactly it means. I think there was, especially for Sorcerer here, fixed an issue where enhanced lightning spear didn't properly function. Like, what does that even mean? You know, maybe it's gonna do 10 times more damage. Fixed an issue where bonus chain lightning projectile did not benefit Axel Conduit. Like, there is a lot of stuff here, and I mean, on the rogue, but also maybe on the Sorc, I mean, on any class, right? Like, we might see some crazy broken or bug build that this is gonna, like, you know, clear pit 200. We will see, guys. Again, Season 5 starting here on Tuesday. I'm hyped. I'm most likely going to play Barb, but I'm also looking forward to play the Sorcerer again. I think Sorcerer is, if I would want to recommend you a class, obviously go Barb. But I think overall, Sorcerer is going to be one of the most interesting and fun to play classes in Season 5. I hope you enjoyed the overview, my friends. Don't forget to check out the awesome drinks here at Holy, super delicious, and these will keep us going throughout the entire season. I'm planning to make a 30-hour stream, and we're gonna be drinking here some good Holy energy. Again, link's gonna be in the description, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. Enjoy the season, have fun, keep blasting. Let's go, GG. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.